All right. Well, welcome to Personal Finance. A little different this term. We're going to try broadcasting it on YouTube Live so that you can make comments or interact. Um, Big picture, though, is we're going to jump right into the course. We're going to talk a little bit about personal finance. All right. Well, welcome to Personal Finance. So let me turn this thing down. We're going to have some feedback coming on. That's not good. Um, Anyway, I don't know if you just heard that first hiccup. Not a big deal. The big picture, what we're going to talk about tonight is the big goals are to get through the syllabus, and then also we're going to talk just jumping straight into chapter one. So the syllabus it's been posted out there. It's got pretty much most of the details you're going to require. It's a pretty straightforward course. Most of it's going to be on Blackboard. The lectures will be posted to YouTube. You can catch up with them live if you like, but for the most part, I anticipate most people just go into YouTube to watch them, already pre-recorded. It's just probably, most people are taking distance courses because they can't make regular set scheduled times, and that's fully understood. This is not some mandatory course where you need to be in attendance. So don't at all sweat that. But it is something that the university wants to strive for. But big picture is we do not want the technology to get in the way of the actual lecture and the personal finance stuff. There's a lot of stuff going on, and we don't need to get too overwhelmed with stuff that's not applicable to the course. Let me pull up something real quick. Syllabus wise, I'll have to drag it over here into the window so we can take a look at it. But it's pretty straightforward, what you'd expect in terms of a midterm and a final, and the rest of the goings on. Get that out of the picture and try and scoot it over here where we can see it. So, all the course information, everything you need. Textbook, don't sweat the textbook in terms of needing the actual edition. They're up to 6th or 7th. Don't worry about that. More will come. But if you can find a used version, either on, Amazon, eBay, a friend, whatever, I'm all about that. Personal finance is about being smart with your money, and wasting a bunch of money on a textbook, especially the current system they have. Well, anyway, we had some students who didn't get the textbook till about the 8th week last year or last term in the fall, and that was not good. So you will need the textbook, but you don't need any of the extras. The different editions will work. Don't worry about that, and the homework will come from that as well. A lot to it. Go read through the syllabus when you get a chance. There's no prereqs. The whole asynchronous course, I try to go through and reiterate that, don't sweat trying to make these lectures. We do have Zoom. We have other things available, as necessary. But again, most of you are, we're not going to have this as a single point of failure, relying upon, some technology that may or may not fail us. What obviously works is straight old YouTube recordings, regular text messages, emails, all that stuff works. So we'll embrace what we can in terms of some of the other technology, but if it gets in the way, it's not going to impede us. So homework, midterm, the term project, the dreaded term projects, it is what it is. What happens in the term project is you're going to come up with kind of a plan, and this is going to be, further into the semester, and you're going to be able to apply some of the things we've talked about to your own sort of financial plan. Now, again, I don't want your personal details, but if you can, set up some sort of mythical person that's got attributes and desires and things kind of close to what you're trying to get out of life, that's great. For some of you, especially traditional college students, yeah, I'm not asking you to come up with a financial plan of how you're going to start saving for retirement when you're, primarily a student and you're not bringing in money. You're, using money in terms of student loans and the rest of it. So if you're in that situation, you would just fast forward yourself, about 5 years or so until you're actually in your career. You're bringing in a steady paycheck. And how are you going to go about your financial life, personal finance? There's a lot of things you need to do. You need to, different topics we'll talk about, but insurance, savings, investing, all that stuff. You'll have enough tools to come up with your plan and figure that out. Participation, the way this works in terms of this course is there's going to be an extra video, not one with me talking, but with something else. I'll pull a video probably from YouTube sources of somebody else kind of making the same point I am, but in different words, or maybe a counterpoint or something like that. And you just go ahead and write a sentence or two on what you think of, that person's opinion. They'll talk about paying yourself first or using online checking accounts or whatever, different opinions. And you may have valid reasons why, I'm not doing that, or I am going to do that, or whatever. Anyway, your feedback weekly on that will count as participation. And then, of course, a final, again, on Blackboard. Term project, most people they have a tough time getting started with it. But they're trying to get me to give them specifics on what they need to do for the term project. And the fact is, it depends. It depends on everybody, what your goals are. So anyway, we're not going to get too wrapped up with that because it is what it is, and it's going to be tailored to you. So there is not a one size fits all in terms of the project. It's going to be a project that has unique attributes. So I can't give a checklist of what you need to do. There's a broad checklist of topics you need to address, but not everybody's paper is going to look the same. They'll all be roughly the same length, or at least a minimum of 4 to 5 pages. There are some objective things I can enforce, but in terms of the content, if it seems like it's fitting the purpose for what you're trying to get out of your plan, then you'll get a good grade on it. Expectations, that's in there. The schedule, so different topics we'll look through. Spring break, investing, stocks, bonds, finals. So what else? Other stuff, all important, but I'm not going to belabor it since you can get more out of it reading it than me making a big deal out of it. All right. We'll see if that came through on the YouTube portion. If not, I've got 2 different systems recording here. So one way or another, we're going to have a good product. So chapter 1, we're going to talk about time value of money and some other things. But before that, a little bit about me. I've been up in Alaska since 2010 or so. I did 23 years in the military. I was a flyer primarily, but I did a lot of logistics, a lot of business stuff. Now I live out in the valley of the Butte, raise horses, dogs, pigs, sheep, whatever. I'm primarily, I guess, a land developer is what you call it. I took over a pretty distressed area and kind of turned it around. So right on the Connect River. I used to run a campground, but that's kind of gone its way. I needed kind of a to displace some of the riffraff who was out here who had kind of occupied the place. And so now that they've moved on, and I've got a horse arena and some other stuff now that's kind of a little bit more interesting, and whatever. I've reached a point in life where picking up other people's garbage and doing that kind of stuff is not where I aspire to be any longer. So the campground, although it made a little bit of money, tremendous liability in terms of lawsuits from knuckleheads getting in trouble. So it's not a financially viable venture anymore, and I'm quite happy with that. So old Yak 52. I'm not that old, but I was able to get in on the tail end of the F4, which was cool. I flew Strike Eagles as well, so that was cool. Some of the animals, pigs, cattle, now and then. It's tough to make cattle work up here. Pigs are jumbo. Much quicker. So, I started out with an MBA way back when, PhD from Southampton in the UK. Worked for Booz Allen Hamilton, the big corporate world, completely soul-crushing experience. Anyway, post-COVID, I couldn't do that anymore. So, back in the day, though, I did quite a bit of stuff. I'm still involved in it. I still have quite a bit of real estate and other things going on, but worked with NATO, NAMSA, a big organization out of Luxembourg, where we sold quite a bit of equipment overseas. So a lot of business transactions, helping partner nations get the financing and the rest of that. So although it was military, it was definitely very business heavy. Latest venture, I retitled it Connect River Ranch. It's probably going to revert back to my own name. There's a certain point where maybe I didn't want my name associated with it, just because it's kind of the Wild West. Now that things are under control and it's more of a proper ranch, we're good to go. But in terms of real estate, it's a pretty good size area. This is just short of 100 acres. So, and it was a pretty complex thing, but more about that. In fact, I don't want to bore you with my stuff. But what I do want to talk about, and what you're going to see in the attachments when you look at the lecture. So each week there'll be the lecture posted, and then within the lecture there'll be a regular PowerPoint that you can look at, but there'll also be the video part of it. And for this week, there's going to be a couple Excel spreadsheets that are super powerful, and I think you'll enjoy kind of looking at them, because it'll kind of expand your mind in terms of personal finance. People, as humans, we don't understand. We think fairly linearly. We don't necessarily understand exponential growth, and especially exponential growth of assets. So there's 3 different charts here. I'll click each one, and I realize you're not, this is an eye chart. You're not going to be able to break out the numbers, so that's why you've got the raw Excel documents as attachments. Let me look at one here that's actually kind of blown up a little bit. So what this is an Excel spreadsheet that does a thing called compound interest. If you're not familiar with compound interest, it is amazing. It is, whatever. There's rumors, or not rumors, but whatever, statements that Einstein considered it like one of the wonders of the world. I mean, it's very hard for us to get our mind around what can happen when interest is earned upon interest. And that's what compound interest is. So I know we'll get there. I'll explain some of these numbers on this page here eventually. But what happens is, let's say somebody is paying you because you're lending them money. Essentially, they're renting money from you. So you've got it invested. And if you think about that, you either renting money or giving somebody money for them to use. there's basically a rental fee, and that's an interest payment, right? So if somebody is going to pay, let's say, 10% interest to you for the use of your money, it makes a difference how that interest is paid. If they say, I want to borrow $100, well, $1,000, and I'm going to pay you 10% interest on that, most of you go, okay, 10% of $1,000 is $100. So that's what I get. I get $100 at the end of the year. Well, that would be simple interest with no compounding. But that's not the way the world works. For most investments, and certainly any interest you're going to pay, like on credit card debt or any of that, interest is compounded, which means interest is paid on interest. So what they do conceptually here is they get the interest rate, in this case 10%, and if they want to compound it daily, so they're paying a 10% annual rate, but they're compounding it daily, what they need to do is they need to get 10% and divide it by 365 to come up with a daily rate. That's like infinitesimally small. But it all adds up to 10% at the end of the year. But in this case, since it's compounded daily, you get that small interest rate on the first day. So on the second day, you have your $1,000. So you're getting, and you're going to get a little bit of interest. Well, what you're going to get in this case, it's compounded daily. On the second day, you have not only your $1,000 that you're getting interest on, but you also have that little teeny fraction of interest that you got for that first day. And then the second day, you're going to have, the first days and the second day. And anyway, by the end of the week, your interest is going to start adding up. Now, it's small, but it's going to be significantly more than if it were 10% just paid at a lump sum at the end of the year. Since it's split up into 365 little parts and you've been earning interest on interest, it compounds. And so it just basically gets out of control. So anyway, it's kind of a complex subject, not that difficult, but that's my best shot at explaining compound interest to you. But what I want to really explain to you is the result of compound interest. So I'm going to step back one slide and we're going to look at this chart. And again, these details, that second slide that I just stepped back from was a zoom in of this portion up here at the top. Anyway, in this case, you can see it says a Roth IRA. So a Roth individual retirement account, and it says 10%. So a Roth IRA is kind of a special. You have individual retirement accounts that you might be familiar with. And a normal individual retirement account, you pull money out of your income before paying taxes on it, and you place it in an IRA. And then when you're of getting close to retirement age, in any case above 59 and a half, you can start withdrawing that money. And it was tax deferred. You didn't pay any taxes on it when you deposit that money, and now you're going to pay taxes on it when you withdraw that money. So that's a traditional IRA, or if they just say IRA, that's what they're talking about. If they say Roth IRA, and we'll talk more about IRAs and retirement savings later. But anyway, a Roth IRA is slightly different. On a Roth IRA, you get money that's already been taxed. So you don't have it taken from your paycheck until after it's given to you. It's after tax. But the deal with a Roth IRA that makes it special and fortuitous is that although you paid taxes on it when you deposit it, before you put it in there, when you withdraw it, any of the earnings on that are tax-free because the taxes have already been paid on it. So traditional IRA, you got to pay the taxes when you withdraw it. A Roth IRA, you pull it out and you don't have to pay any taxes on it. So That's important, but not so important to this example. But what the important thing is this is just the savings vehicle that the person has used. And then the 10% interest, that's a pretty good return, but that's typical for the stock market. The stock market since the turn of the century, there's been good years and bad years, but over the long haul for equities, it's been about 10%. So not at all unrealistic. So what we're looking at in this example is we're looking at somebody, and this is set up for, somebody perhaps maybe in a military example where they're actually making money, regular income when they're 18. And in this case, in order for these numbers to work, they start depositing $500 per month into an account and setting it aside. They do that for 11 months out of the year. So let's say they take, December, Christmas off or whatever. But anyway, they deposit $5,500 a year, and they leave it in that account, and it's compounding interest. And so kind of a long ways in coming, but what happens to that money? How much money do you end up with at age 65? Well, because of the compounding nature and because you were getting 10% interest on it, it's this top line. So this guy started at age 18. He invested $273,500, which is $5,500 for all those years, plus it increases a little bit at the end, but that's all spelled out in the fine print. But anyway, so from $273,000, the value at 65 is $5.3 million. So you have turned, around $250,000 into $5.3 million. So your return on investment, your ROI, is damn near 2,000%. Cost of delay, you didn't delay. You started at age 18. What this graph shows, if you take it out, and this is good to look at because you'll go, well, I got a lot of things going on. I got student loan debt. I want to buy a home. I can't start saving for anything. I'm going to wait till I get, 40 before I do it. Well, you're going to see that you really can't get there from here. Your numbers are going to be quite a bit smaller if you delay that much. I'm just showing here somebody delaying to age 27, and you can see that the amount is less than half by delaying, that many years, 9 years. It cost damn near $250,000. So anyway, good charts. They're pretty good at dramatizing, explaining the compound interest. Compound interest, this is huge in all aspects of personal finance because compound interest, it works both ways. It can also, if you're carrying credit card debt and you're carrying, these same numbers, $5,500, and you're not getting charged 10% interest, you're probably getting charged 30% interest, 28, something like that. Yeah, these numbers get astronomical. You will realize just what will happen if you carry debt that's compounded daily. And most debt is compounded daily. So anyway, what's going to happen? The goal of this course is to turn you into somebody, hopefully, who earns interest and doesn't pay interest. I have some loans out there on different pieces of real estate, but the interest rates are so low that the investments make more than the interest rate. So, if it's a loan less than 3% or something like that, yeah, that's not necessarily a bad loan. If it's on an asset that's appreciating, 10% a year, you'd be foolish to pay off that loan. But on a high-priced consumer loan that's not tax deductible, it's a no-brainer that can't happen, or you're going to be in financial ruin. There you go. Okay, so I wanted to hit that part about compound interest, just to kind of set the tone, because that is really one of the most important concepts of personal finance. Now we're just going to jump into some of the more generic stuff that will line up with the book when you get your textbook, and we'll look at concepts reviewing a financial plan. So, overview of financial plan. What some of the definitions are. So, personal finance. Obviously, we're not talking about mergers and acquisitions. We're not talking about making money for other folks, for some company. You may be in a position where you own your own company at some point, but we're talking about how to turn this all into knowledge that can benefit you. So, personal finance plan, and then opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is another huge issue. So, getting back to saving for retirement, you say, I can't do that right now. I just started with my new job. I need some things. I need a new vehicle. I need a whatever. I need to take some trips. I need to do some things. You got to find a way to hopefully be able to do both, and it may be not necessarily compromising on the. I actually really am saying you got to compromise probably on the vehicle. If you want to waste money in the worst possible, I'm not even going to call it an investment. If you want to spend money on something that's not going to help you out, vehicles, you really can't do much worse. They're expensive. They don't appreciate. They're transitory. I get it. You're in Alaska. You got to get to your work. You may have children dependent upon you. You can't be breaking down on the side of the road. So there's got to be kind of a happy medium. But to say that you need a $70,000 truck every couple of years that's going to leave a mark on your financial future. And so this ties into opportunity cost. If you have, the $70,000 vehicle every couple of years, what you're foregoing, the opportunity cost of that vehicle, means that it's going to impact heavily in other items. I'm pretty big in crypto. I've done all right on crypto, and I tell you what, a little bit can go a long ways on that. And there's a number of people who, they have whatever philosophy where they just buy a small amount of crypto every month, and these people don't have a ton of money, but they forego something like, let's say they're going to Starbucks or whatever your vice is, smoking cigarettes, whatever. They're spending $10-15 on something every day, and then at the end of the month they were like, I've got no money, I'm broke. Well, it's sometimes some of the recurring costs that are like an everyday cost that if you were to modify your behavior, you might be able to free up some money. $10 a day over the course of a month, that's $300, which isn't necessarily a bad amount to start putting away for your investments when you're just getting started. It's usually best to pick a percentage, say 10%, something like that. And if you're pulling in, not a substantial amount of money, $300, given the time value of money, will really make a difference sometime off in the future. So you'll get beat up pretty well if you don't understand the concept of opportunity cost. The finals, the midterms, they dwell quite a bit on opportunity cost. Also another concept called liquidity. But anyway, opportunity cost is definitely getting your priorities, sorting out your needs from your wants. So personal finance, even if you have somebody else helping you out, or perhaps maybe you're really into this and you become a financial advisor to guide other people, it's a field that that definitely needs some work. There's a lot of people involved in personal finance, but most of them are on commission, and they're really salesmen that may not have your interest solely at heart. That fiduciary interest, that concentration on your best interest rather than commission, is a lot of times lacking. So anyway, if you do have some expertise in personal finance and you're around somebody like that, you can sort it out pretty quick. And then again, if you wanted to be somebody who's actually providing financial advice, and ideally on a fee for services basis where they're paying you by the hour for guidance rather than you relying on commission, which means you got to sell them stuff constantly and maybe do things that aren't in their best interest. That's obviously a better situation. Components, so budgeting, tax planning. So yeah, keeping the money. I mean, there's obviously a component of making sure what your income is coming in, and that kind of starts with, career selection and the rest of it. But once you have a set amount of money coming in, how you spend it, and also the tax planning, how much of you get to keep, is huge. Liquidity is a huge concept. Liquidity means access to cash, basically. You can be a very wealthy person with even owning a bunch of real estate. And I don't mean with a loan, I mean you actually own it outright, but that is not a source of liquid cash. If you needed some money tomorrow trying to flip real estate, and that's not a liquid thing. So the trick with any sort of investment strategy is to make sure that you have some liquidity so you can have the cash to cover the day-to-day bills, but also you don't want excess liquidity. Excess money you want invested and working for you rather than sitting in a mindless checking account. Financing your large purchases, so yeah, lots of options there. And just purchasing in general, as I mentioned before with the vehicles. Protecting what you've got, so different forms of insurance. We'll go through that. We'll go through property. We'll go through, auto, flood, life insurance. There's a lot of variables in there that, again, it's not a one-size-fits-all. And especially in life insurance, there's a certain point in life where I'll argue with you that you do not need life insurance when you reach a certain age. So anyway, it's a place to save some money and invest in other things, and then invest in your money. So again, there's much more to the world than Bitcoin and other stuff, but having a diverse portfolio, I've tried to make a bit of money in a lot of fairly aggressive investments, either in the market or other things, but I'm not comfortable keeping it in the market due to the volatility. So I tend to make money and then pull it out and put it into real estate holdings, which works for most of us. Planning for your retirement and your estate. So retirement means you're still alive. Estate means that you've left the building. So what you're going to leave for people beyond you. And estate planning is it kind of happens. I mean, there's a lot of planning that goes into it. But if you're planning for your retirement, thankfully, you don't know when you're going to die. So you should have excess amounts. You don't want to get to, some point in your life and go, ooh, I'm still alive and I'm broke now. No, there should be a certain amount left over, and that would go into your estate. A lot of things you can do with that. All right. Budgeting, forecasting. Yep. So we're going to go through these kind of in lots of things you can do with budgeting. Lots of apps that are out there. Some people, it's an individual choice. Some people are into that stuff. Other people are not. Some people just have a bucket method, and other people, they really are details oriented and they're conscientious and they'll keep track, and that's great. It also depends if you're, married or significant other or whatever, that you are all kind of on the same sheet of music, because that can be a source of conflict. Yep, your financial position. So assets and liabilities. And then to get your net worth, you subtract those from one another. So assets are obviously, just like it says, what you own. So if you've got a huge house, that's not necessarily an asset. If you've got a huge loan on it, well, it's really the bank's home and you're staying in it. There's a portion of it that's going to be your equity, that's going to be in the asset column, but the rest of that loan is going to be the liability. So eventually your goal is to, increase your net worth. So, but again, people who say, "Oh, you want to be 100% debt free," well, that's not what I do, because I'm carrying some debt that's at less than 3%. I mean, if I can't invest money and get more than 3%, well, then I clearly shouldn't be teaching personal finance. I mean, so anyway, it all depends. Now, if you've got a bunch of debt that is, credit card debt, yeah, that's a no-win situation. You need to get that taken care of before you can invest anything at all. Okay, so, yep, different people. I was kind of referring this before in terms of personalities. You know what you are. Liquidity, so we talked about that. Access to cash, so access to funds. We refer to funds as cash for the most part. Money management, how are you going to do that? How are you going to get through life? What's going in long-term investments, what's not? We'll address that. Credit management, how to get credit. A lot of you may be at a certain stage in life. I know I was when I was finishing college, where I was like obsessed with getting some sort of status card, an American Express card. I wouldn't own an American Express card now. I don't. I used to have to keep them for companies I work for. Horrendous, not good. But anyway, for some reason that was important to me. Not important to me anymore. But having credit and managing all that and getting the best rates available, that is important. Maintaining your liquidity. Yep. And keeping your finances in order, your credit score will take care of itself if you take care of your business. So, when you need, it's credit is a strange thing. When you need money, they don't want to lend it to you. When you've got money, they want to lend it to you. So it's kind of converse. So go easy on the cost tuition. I know it's hard, but for the most part, if you can separate out needs and wants. Now, I don't put, well, they're just talking general views here, but a car and a house. I've always kind of spent big on houses and cars. I've generally had classic cars and things like that. So they've been more investments. I was in Europe for a long, long time, military-wise. Probably spent about 14 years there, and so I've had, I don't know. I mean, over there's not. I don't. Maybe some of you have Corvettes, but it seems like there's kind of a stigma in the States of having a Corvette. In Europe, it was just kind of a cool car that you could use. I mean, I was on the Autobahn with it. I had a Dodge Viper. I had all kinds of stuff, Porsches, and anyway. But I never bought new, and they were always like a second car. They weren't a beater with a heater. They were like the fun car, and I'd keep it 3 or 4 years, buy it well, and sell it for, I don't think I ever lost money on, 10, 15 cars like that. So you can do well, but and then on homes, real estate, it's, real estate interest that you're paying on a real estate loan is tax deductible for the most part. So that is a huge difference. Plus, it's a lower interest rate. So having loans for different things, not all loans are equal. Anyway, we'll talk more about all these topics in great detail on future lectures. Purchase amount. Yep. Protecting your assets. So, automobile. You've got a lot of options here. Automobile insurance, you've got to carry liability insurance. That liability means you've got to fix, the other guy's car when you hit them. And if you've got a loan on your vehicle, well, it's not really your vehicle, so they'll make you carry collision, which means it'll fix your vehicle if you're the one causing the accident. So, but if you own the vehicle outright, and it's an older vehicle, you have options on that. You can drop the collision. You can increase the deductible. There's a lot of personal finance decisions to be made on that. Homeowners insurance, again, if you've got a mortgage on it, they're going to insist upon that, but you can't control the deductible. Health insurance is such a mess. But in terms of personal finance, it is, the leading cause of bankruptcies and the rest of it. We'll talk about it, but there's only so much we can control until they, fix this system. It's broken, and politicians are what they are. They like people going to vote to get a certain way. If they solve problems, it doesn't work. Things like gun control, abortion, legalizing drugs. You wonder why none of these issues there's like a agreement, because they don't want agreement. Agreement is, anyway, that's enough. No more personal finance topics on that. But anyway, health insurance is a mess. Disability insurance, life insurance. So we'll talk about that as well. And again, when you're young, when you've got lots of responsibilities, and I don't mean young like alone. Young alone, you don't need life insurance. But young with kids, people dependent upon you, lots of debts out there, a stay-at-home spouse, you need some insurance. When you're in your 60s, the home's paid for, the kids either did or did not go to college, your spouse is closer to, the retirement age, you don't need much insurance. And oh, by the way, you're kind of closing in on death itself, so it's going to get expensive. Maybe it's a good time to not have that life insurance anymore and just use that money for investing or whatever. But anyway, we'll talk more about it. It's kind of grim, but it's something that needs to be addressed. Planning for investing. So most people are pretty risk averse. I am not typical. I will admit that. I don't mind my portfolio zooming up and down, but it works out pretty well. I mean, when they talk about cryptocurrencies, they say, well, you shouldn't have more than 10% of your portfolio in crypto. There's been a number of times where I've had to kind of rebalance things because, you start out with 10% crypto and all of a sudden it starts just going crazy. We'll see what happens, what the future is, but, I bought my first Bitcoin back when they were $700. Now, I wish I would have bought a stack, but I bought two. So, I'm not exactly a high roller when it came to that. I bought some more later. But anyway, when it got to $2,600, which is, phenomenal gain, I sold one of them. Bitcoin's, it's not that high right now, but it's 44,000. So, Anyway. Also stock market and stuff too. There's certain companies out there. I've been a big fan of NVIDIA for a long time, and they've done very, very well. Lululemon's a good one. Anyway, we'll talk more about investing, but all those companies were kind of risky at the time, but they've done well. There are more stable investments, and we'll discuss those as well. A plan for your retirement estate. So again, there's gonna be a focus where we're gonna be talking continually about saving for retirement. You're going, wait a minute, I want to live my life. Well, the thing is, when you're saving for your retirement, you're building up a nest egg, and you're, being disciplined, and you can, use a lot of those retirement funds through different courses. I've started a number of businesses by borrowing against my own retirement. I'm essentially taking a loan from myself, which is perfectly legal. There's ways to get access to it. So, and it's tax incentivized to do that. So building your plan. So this is what we're doing. It's not about greed. It's about, people say, well, I don't want to obsess about money. I don't want to be, having to focus solely on money. Guess what? If you're not semi-focused on your finances, you're going to be very focused on your finances because you're going to be broke. If finances are not something that you want to ignore and hope for the best. If your plan is, that's what Social Security is for. I hope to dispel that notion from you as we go through this course. I mean, the problem with Social Security is, well, there's a lot of problems, but the overriding one is that older people tend to vote. And the financial, the solvency of Social Security is not good. Well, they're not going to screw the old people. The old people are voting. The old people who are drawing their Social Security right now, they're going to be largely unaffected. And how do they keep Social Security afloat? They're going to have to take it out on the next generation. So there's going to be all sorts of, I mean, not that Social Security, people aren't living the high life on Social Security right now, but it's going to get worse. So anyway, affects your cash flow. So inflows and outflows. One of the things we'll talk about just slightly here, and you may want to address in your plan, is sort of look at what you want to get out of life in terms of finances. And it may, especially since you're in college, it may even affect your career choice. You say, yeah, I really want to do this, but that's going to be tough to make any money. Now, there are ways to do it. There's plenty of books out there, The Wealthy Barber, and there's certain people who realize that they have a passion for whatever profession that doesn't pay well. And they're like, in order to, live a comfortable life, I'm going to have to be very good with my money, or maybe have some sort of side hustle, investing or tracking things. There's all sorts of things that can be done, and now, some of this technology. I don't know if you've. I'm trying to think of the money or the movie that's related to a couple really good personal finance related movies, and one is the one about GameStop, and just how, with the tools and the technology, and if people engage in this in a hobby, they can do quite well. Or other people could, perhaps manage real estate and start building rentals and income properties. And there's lots of opportunities if your day job isn't going to make it for you in terms of income. And it's probably a lot more satisfying because you're actually generating this wealth yourself. You're kind of your own person. So, so we'll talk about budgeting. We'll look at some of the apps. We'll look at how that goes. Spending is part of it. Liquidity, so access to cash. How are you going to keep enough money around but yet not be sitting on idle cash? Should I lease a car? Leasing is no. I've said it. I mean, whatever. Convince me otherwise, but yeah, for most people, leasing a car is doesn't benefit you. It's actually a long-term rental. Should I borrow money to purchase a car? Yeah, I'm not one of these persons who says you need to pay cash for a vehicle, but I'm just saying you need to kind of live within your means. Should you borrow to purchase a home? Almost in all cases, because it's an appreciating asset, and the longer you delay, if you wait to have enough cash to buy a house for cash, that ship has probably sailed. You missed so many opportunities. The real estate lobby is strong. The laws, the taxes, all that stuff are very fortuitous for homeowners. So if your lifestyle allows for it, i.e. you're not moving around all the time, on a super frequent basis. Again, it depends on the area, but yeah, that's something. We'll see what happens. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but corporations, it's profitable to have you rent from them, and if somebody like BlackRock could control everything and have you as a renter, that'd be good for them, but maybe not so good for you. So, sorry, skipped a few slides there. Protecting your wealth, so insurance, we've hit that. We'll spend weeks on that, a week or anyway, different types of insurance. Personal investing, it's kind of a fun part of the course. Some people are into it, some people aren't. I mean, for me, it's kind of like sports. I could give a rat's whatever about the NFL and things, but some of the crypto stuff, I'm kind of, I would much rather watch that than ESPN or something like that. Retirement planning. Sounds boring, but that's where you're going to build your wealth. A big chunk of that, I bought several pieces of property with my IRA 401k before I was anywhere near retirement age, but that's where the money was, and I wanted to secure the property, and we'll talk about that. It gets kind of complex, but you can get access to that without penalties and being taxed. So, components of a financial plan. We've kind of hit most of them. Yeah, if you get behind, what are you going to do? Work more hours. Yeah, that's good when you're young, before your relationships go to whatever. Withdraw more cash from savings. Yeah, that's not going to work. Obtain a loan that you're going to have to pay back. You're already in trouble. Cash in insurance policy. You shouldn't have bought a cash value insurance policy. I digress. Sell some of your investments. Again, you're killing the cow that's going to golden cow. Withdraw funds from your retirement account. So anyway, I mean, these are all short run conclusions, solutions. Well, they're not solutions. Short run tasks that aren't going to get you where you need to be. So. Talk more about all these concepts. We're going to be hitting about an hour here. So. Oh, the beauty of live YouTube with dogs. Sorry about that. Budgeting, liquidity, financing. I raise dogs as well. Hungarian Vizslas. Like I said, I spent a lot of time in Europe, so I got a number of dogs from Budapest and started the original strain. Budgeting, liquidity, financing, insurance, investment decisions, retirement. So just another wrap up. And I'm not a psychologist. I'm not your therapist. I can encourage you as much as possible to, don't get involved in some sort of retail therapy or feel like you need to have a brand new car. And that's my extent of guidance. I know some people have that tendency, but yeah, you're going to pay for it. Yeah, I had the advantage of, going to college when it was less expensive, but I also probably was lived a little bit more frugally. I mean, I had a great time. I was in a college town, but I had multiple roommates. Didn't have my own vehicle. Pretty much ate what was available at the happy hour. Happy hours were better back then. Anyway, there's ways to get through it. And it gave me a pretty good start in terms of budgeting. Hopefully some of you will have that experience and not have your wants and needs confused. Not trying to lecture you here. But the homework. Okay, so the way the homework's going to work, this is exactly what it says, will not be turned in individual assignments. It's turned in as a bulk assignment. So everybody's going to stress going, I don't have the textbook yet, I'm falling behind. No, you're fine. You're fine. You've got about 6 to 8 weeks, 6 weeks anyway, to get your book sorted out, get the homework done, and that's when you're going to turn in the homework. You're going to turn in the homework just prior to the midterm, and then there'll be a second one. So the other thing on this homework is just look at that Excel spreadsheet and dive into those numbers. And just, look at some of the things. Go, well, realistically, I'm whatever. Some of you may be older students. You're like, I'm already 40. What do I need to do? And look at that kind of missed opportunity. Realize you're going to have to maybe put in more money later in life. Now, even if you doubled up, it's not like the money's going to be the same. If you put in twice as much when you're 40, no, because of the time value of money, you can't quite get there from here. But at least you can do better and get things going. So anyway, I think it's gonna be a good term. We'll try some of these things out. I'm open to Zoom and whatever, trying to do the broadcast here on the YouTube. At the very least, we'll have backups and you can watch the recorded lectures just fine as well. So, but if you do have, issues or comments or something, and you can be here, I think Tuesdays at 6, we'll probably work. You can type in a comment, or you can send me an email or a text or whatever and just say, hey, I'm confused about this. Can you cover it in the next lecture? Because you're probably not the only one. So just do that, and we'll get it addressed. Sounds good. All right. Well, till next week, if you have any questions, let me know.